Man, that game took a couple years off of my life. Or should I say that second half, remainder of the game. What's up, everyone? Bass here. So, Packers just lost to the Indianapolis Colts 34-31, bringing them to 7-3 on the year after a overtime loss. A thriller of a game, a really good game from a fan's perspective. I enjoyed the game too. It kept you on the edge of your seat. Definitely had your heart rate going, but obviously just didn't end the way we would want. So overall, a lot of issues in this game, and primarily in the second half, but it didn't start just then. Obviously, the first drive of Green Bay is a fumbled snap. Corey Linsley and Aaron Rodgers didn't get to snap correctly. Corey Linsley left with a back injury after that and did not return, so definitely have to monitor that since he's, pivotal part of this offensive line, one of the best centers in the league. And early on, the offense started to use a lot of stretch runs, and then off of that, they'd run stretch PA boots, which seemed to work a lot. I think it was the second drive, they ran about 3 PA boots in a row, and they all gained a little bit of yardage. The first one was an Aaron Rodgers run on third down, and then a couple went to Tunyon. And then, of course, that nice throw, seam route against cover two to Bob Tunyon there. Great throw. Aaron Rodgers had a good game. Outside the one interception, which was a cover two hole shot that he just kind of underthrew a little bit. It wasn't on MVS. He was trying to fit it in between the under corner and the safety, and Rocky Sin played it really well. He kind of baited him into throwing that. And, he throws a little more upfield into the outside. It would have been, a complete pass. But, hey, it's... an interception, interception in each game in the past 2 games for Aaron Rodgers, so just needs to look to clean that type of stuff up. So going over the offensive notes first, obviously, MVS had a good game until overtime. Now, you can't blame this game on one player. Obviously, the fumble in overtime is what, evidently lost the game. Like, that event happened that created the loss, but a lot of stuff before that was a lot worse in my opinion, and kind of just, put the Packers in that situation to begin with when, they were up big at half. It just, it was just a collapse, a complete team collapse, offense, defense, special teams in the second half. It was not pretty. One thing that's really starting to piss me off, and especially now considering Aaron Rodgers made a joke about it, how David Bakhtiari was joking with him on Twitter saying he's too old to quarterback sneak, which is a complete lie. And I think obviously David Bakhtiari was joking because you see Tom Brady doing it. It's pretty much a gimme. They still didn't do it. They still didn't quarterback sneak when multiple times it was very applicable, especially on that fourth down when they were down by 3. It would have been like a 51-yard field goal. The gap was wide open, and instead they run some weird play action where Jamal Williams skirts out to the flat and is completely locked up, and Aaron just kind of tosses it over his head on fourth down. At least run the ball there, run Jamal right up the middle and hope he gets it. Obviously, it would have been nice to have A.J. Dillon there, not activated yet. A lot of people were saying, well, why'd you draft A.J. Dillon? Well, he's not active, so can't really say put him in. He kind of had COVID-19, so. But the quarterback sneak there, I would put money on it that would have worked. And I just don't understand. You see teams run quarterback sneaks so much, and it works 9 out of 10 times. Jacoby Brissett ran one. They're bringing in a backup quarterback to run quarterback sneaks, and on one of them, I think he gained like 4 or 5 yards. It's ridiculous. So it's not that hard. It's really not that hard. If it's 4th and inches, run a quarterback sneak. 3rd and inches, it's not that hard. Another thing that's like really starting to piss me off is the 2nd and 10 or 2nd and long runs. That usually end up gaining a maximum of 3 yards. You're putting yourself in a 3rd and long distance. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, you can't set yourself up for a 3rd and long. So going over the offensive stats, like I said, Aaron Rodgers had a pretty good game minus the interception. 27 to 38, 311 yards, 3 touchdowns, and then that pick. Devontae Adams had his normal 100-plus yard game, really turned it on in that last drive. MVS had that nice PI call, which, netted him like 51 yards. And then, of course, the deep ball and triple coverage in overtime, or right before overtime, which pretty much got him in field goal. Well, got him up the field so they can get into field goal range after that using Devontae. I think Aaron Jones had about 10 carries for 41 yards. Nothing crazy. They didn't really run much. Jamal didn't run well. I would have expected a little more running, but then again, Indianapolis's defensive line and linebackers are just really good. All right, so moving on to the defense. A lot of people want to blame them. They didn't play great, but they also didn't play horrible. They held the Colts to a lot of non-touchdown drives or field goal drives after pretty much the Packers gave up the ball, whether it be on special teams or offense in terms of fumbles or an interception. So they played well in that regard, and I'll give it to them that they played decently considering the fact that they were on the field so much. I think the Packers ran 6 plays in the third quarter, 2 3-and-outs. You can't do that, and you can't blame a defense for caving under that when you stick them on pretty much 90% of the third quarter. They're obviously going to be gassed, and I think they did decently well for being that gassed. In the first drive, Raven Green had a nice punch-out fumble. Got the ball back right after the Packers fumbled themselves. Looked like Charles Woodson punching that ball out right before the offensive player hit the ground. Nice turnover there. Raven Green's a very sneakily underrated player on the Packers defense. I think he needs more snaps out of the nickel backer slot. One player that was getting torched pretty much all game, and I don't know if it's a schematic reason or he just really can't do it, is Christian Kirksey. Colts were running a lot of crosser routes, and sometimes it was like Michael Pittman seemed like he was wide open, especially on the touchdown, just nowhere near him. And I don't know if it's like a zone scheme that Kirksey's just not understanding or Pittman's putting people in the wrong places at the wrong time. I think Kamal Martin's better suited for that role if you're going to run a zone and pretty much ask the middle linebacker to cover slot fast receivers across the middle. But it would be nice to see more Kamal Martin there. And then obviously when Chris Barnes comes back, I mean, Kirksey's okay. He's serviceable, but give me the upside of these 2 rookies. Kirksey did have an interception, but it really wasn't him. It was right place, right time. Billy Wynn tipped the ball from the line of scrimmage, who has actually been a really underrated free agent pickup earlier in the year. He's been playing decently well. Montravius Adams was out this game, so he took over that role. He did play decently well, and he had that tip, and then Kirksey just pretty much was a gimme interception. So Preston Smith is still dropping in coverage. You can't blame Preston for this. He's not a cover linebacker. He's an edge guy, and the defensive coordinator needs to put players in the best position to succeed, and it just doesn't seem like he's doing that. I just don't understand having Preston drop and cover a seam route from a slot receiver in the red zone. It just makes zero sense to me. I would rather see that receiver, get open on a blown coverage by, say, a nickel corner than just see Preston Smith trying to cover a receiver. I just don't want to see it. Just send him at the quarterback. Let him pass rush like he's supposed to do. It's getting ridiculous. Speaking of Preston Smith and Z, I think there was a total of 4 offsides. Pretty much the whole day was riddled with penalties on both teams. That last drive where the Colts were trying to ice the game, there was 6, 7 holding calls, and then just a lot of offsides. The Packers had 4 offsides, just like they're trying to jump the snap, and I get it. You're trying to jump the snap and get the edge so you can go and make a play and sack Phillip Rivers. But 4 times in a game, it's just bad football. It's just unorganized. You need to clean that up. It's not a good look. It's a free 5 yards every time. On a brighter note, Adrian Amos is definitely finally putting it together. Definitely called him out earlier in my videos. Pretty much said he was playing pretty shittily. He played a really good game today. Had a few breakups, a good tackle behind the line of scrimmage, so it's good to see him getting back to that form and being consistent. So I usually don't talk about special teams because sometimes there's not too much to talk about, but today there definitely was. J.K. Scott wasn't supposed to be playing this game. He took a private jet, came over this morning into Indianapolis. They signed Drew Kaser. He was supposed to punt. Now, J.K. was out due to personal reasons. It's unknown what that exactly is, but whatever it is definitely affecting him because he punted really bad today. He just the punts were not good. Didn't really flip the field at all. Usually JK's a pretty decent weapon, but today it just wasn't there. And then, of course, the Darius Shepard miscues. Dude needs to get banned from kick return. I understand Tyler Irvin's hurt, but if your main guy is hurt, go out and sign someone who can return. It's not that hard to get a street free agent. I know there's COVID protocols, but you have an entire week. You have an entire whatever days to do it. You can do it just like they did, and they had an emergency Drew Kaser. You can do it. It is possible. Do not throw a guy back there that has no clue what he's doing, and it's clear you could see he has no clue what he's doing because the Colts popped up the kick every single time because they wanted him to return it, and I know why. Because one time, the ball hit at the goal line and bounced in, and luckily it barely touched the goal line, or else we would have had ball at the 3-yard line. It was ruled a touchback after, but it's just like, what are you doing, man? And then another time he took it out of the end zone and got stopped at like the 10. Blocking wasn't great, but at the same time, you're not your usual returner. If it's capable of taking a touchback, do it. But the Colts weren't allowing him to, and then on the second, third quarter drive the Packers were going to have, he fumbled the ball, and yeah, just very, very bad. And he stayed in the game after that. I think that's literally because they didn't have anyone else. I don't know who else would go back there. I know Josh Jackson has some experience fielding punts, but I'm not sure about the kick return game. So they need Tyler Irvin back, or they need to sign someone else, because Darius Shepard is just, it's not it. All right, so I had a great idea by one of my viewers. So if you didn't know already, I host an app, or I host a group on an app called Flick Chat. I host a Packers chat on that app. I gave away Devontae Adams signed jersey on it. I have a A.J. Dillon signed jersey I'm going to be giving away very shortly, so definitely go down in the description and join that Packers group. But someone had an idea that I should answer some questions from that group after the game. So I pretty much make a thread there saying, ask me some questions, I'll answer them, and put the little question down at the bottom here and go over my thoughts on said questions. So like I said, go down in the description, join that. It's a free app. You don't have to pay anything. You just join, and basically there's game day chats and all that type of stuff, news and polls and all that. It's a cool place to interact with other fans like yourself. So with the first question from Nick Wagner, we have, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you think Pettine needs the boot? So before this game, I was on the side that, hey, there's like, I'm not too big on firing Mike Pettine, especially not in year. And I mean, I'm still there. I'm still at the point where I don't think you fire him in the middle of the year. At the end of the day, the Packers are 7-3. Yes, they have some defensive issues, but they're still leading in the NFC North and one of the top teams in the NFC. Now, if these issues keep arising and the Packers keep losing big games due to certain defensive miscues and end up losing a playoff game because of these miscues, I think it's time to move on. I think Matt LaFleur needs to get his own guy. Mike Pettine was here before Matt LaFleur. I think Gutekunst pretty much said, hey, stick with Pettine. Let's see how it goes. I don't think Matt LaFleur honestly wanted him. But he kept him. So I say you let the season play out, and if it ends up biting you in the ass, move on. Move on, find someone else, whoever it may be. Dan Quinn would be a nice hire, whoever it may be. But I say you can't do it in the middle of the season, especially if you're a winning football team. You just cannot do that. So Logan asks, should Kevin King be benched for Josh Jackson? I don't think he should be benched, but do I think Josh Jackson will end up taking his job, especially after this year, since Kevin King is on the last year of his deal and is injury prone? Yes. I think Kevin King is seeing his last few games as a Packer, unless they get him on a very cheap, team-friendly deal, as a prove-it deal, because he's always hurt. I could see that. But yeah, I think Josh Jackson's going to take his job. User by the name of Packers Green Bay asks, which players are the biggest sleepers on offense and defense? Offense, I would have to say either Elton Jenkins or Billy Turner. They're just very versatile linemen and have, elevated this line so much. It's been one of the brighter points of the Packers offense and one of the best lines in the entire league. And on defense, I would have to go with either Montravius Adams or Kingsley Keke. Adams has been a very solid run defender for the Packers this year. Inactive today. Definitely would have helped because Jonathan Taylor started to get in a groove and tear us up. But definitely Montravius Adams or Keke on that defensive line. The last question by Jonathan Parthamore. On a scale of 1 to 10, what is my overall rating of Marquez Valdes-Scantling on the year? Now, I don't want to have too much recency bias here, but I'd give him a solid 6.5. I think, he's just a physical guy. He's tall, he's big, and he's fast. Could he be better? 100%. Could he be worse? Yes, we've seen it. He's posing to be a decent deep threat for the Packers, which is what they need. That catch right before overtime was very clutch. The PI was very clutch right before half. If he can get 2 shots a game and convert them, he's doing his job. He just needs more consistency other than that. And to round it up real quick, I'll go right through the injuries. There's only a couple. Like I said, Corey Linsley left with a back injury and never returned. And then also Tyler Lancaster and Chandon Sullivan left. I'm not sure on their designations on what injury or if they returned or not. I didn't quite see, and it wasn't released, so you'll have to check in later through the week with the training during practice. So that'll about do it. The Packers moved to 7-3. I said it was going to be a 3-point game either way. Obviously, I wanted the Packers to win. It was a very tight game, very exciting game, but move on to 7-3. They play Chicago next week, Sunday Night Football in Green Bay. Very excited for that. Chicago's on a pretty bad streak. Be good to get a win there and get some momentum actually playing in Lambeau because they haven't seemed to have it. But on that note, hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your night. Go Pack, go.